So, a quick look at the latest changes and improvements to the touch bar support in BeebEm for the Mac, the my preferred BBC Micro emulator for this platform. So, I've been working on adding touch bar support, principally to provide BBC Micro style function keys, particularly on Macs with a touch bar. There are no physical function keys. This is a good opportunity to provide exactly the function keys that the BBC Micro and its emulator expect. So a few changes since the previous video. Across the touch bar, as before, we have the function keys F0 to F9, but now on the left we have a shift lock key, which is another key which is normally mapped to one of the function keys, one of the higher numbered function keys, F10 to F12. As before, we also have the copy key and the break key. In terms of the behavior, one of the things that's changed is that auto repeat now works properly. So as well as single key presses, as I do here by pressing the function keys, if I navigate the cursor up and use the copy key and just hold, we get auto repeat on the keystroke there, just by holding the virtual copy key down. That's actually the emulated BBC Micro doing the auto repeat there. There's no special handling for auto repeat in the touch bar code. We're just passing the correct key events through the various layers of software through to the emulated BBC Micro. You'll notice that on this particular Mac, this Mac has a what's called a version 1 touch bar. It has a software escape key. This is a very controversial feature when Apple introduced the touch bar, taking away a physical escape key. They actually wound that back with the version 2 touch bar, and you get a physical escape key. One thing I haven't yet done, just because it requires a separate code path in the emulator code, is to actually customize the look of the Apple provided escape key to make it say escape like a true BBC Micro escape key. I also put it in the same color as the break key. This region over here to the right of the touch bar is called the control strip. And normally you would, I guess, choose to show the control strip because it gives you common controls for the system, like display brightness and volume. Again, functions that on other Macs are on the hardware function keys, so they've been moved to the control strip. So one change I have made is to try to get the iconic keyboard status LEDs into our touch bar. So it turns out that in macOS you can actually decide whether you want the control strip. So I've just gone into the system settings on the Mac here. I'm going to remove or toggle the state of whether the control strip is shown. You'll see that it's no longer shown on the touch bar we're seeing here. And if I just minimize the controls again and go back to BeebEm, you'll see that now we have 3 LEDs, or simulated LEDs, in this region over here. I'm going with the BBC Micro Model B LEDs at the moment. So we have a cassette motor, caps lock, and shift lock. And indeed, if I press our virtual shift lock button, you'll notice that the status of the simulated LEDs follows that. I can't show you caps lock working because for other reasons, handling of caps lock in Mac BeebEm, at least the state of the code I'm working on here, isn't actually working correctly. In fact, keyboard mapping in general is problematic, and even logical mapping offered by BeebEm is certainly incorrect on this Mac, which has an international English keyboard layout. So I'm going to have to do some work on caps lock to get that to work. And of course, on the Mac, there is, like the Beeb, there is an LED on the caps lock key. So one of the things I need to do is synchronize the macOS notion of caps lock state with the emulator's version of caps lock state. So it's a little more complicated than just sending key up and key down events as we do with the other keys. Of course, if you want a Model B with a cassette motor LED, that responds, as you might hope, to the motor commands. Actually, I've got shift lock on, so that this is not going to be make things easy for myself. So if we turn on the cassette motor with star motor 1, you can see the cassette motor LED responds to that. And then we'll just round things off by turning that off again. There we go. So let's just, if I just pick up the camera here and just zoom in, or physically move the camera towards the LEDs, the simulated LEDs, so you can get a better sense of what's going on here. Get close there. So you can see the graphics for the LEDs on the touch bar, which go wildly against Apple's UX guidelines. They strongly discourage skeuomorphism in the touch bar, but frankly, I couldn't resist just having some nice, realistic looking LEDs in good old 670 nanometer red. So there we go. I'll be working on this a little more over the coming weeks, as and when time allows. So there's quite a few more features to go into the touch bar. I think we'll try to get some drive LEDs in there as well. I think we can find a bit of room for that. And also I need to test it on a Mac with Touch Bar version 2.